Hello everybody, I am Robin Warner and this is a 2022 Toyota GR86. This is the second generation two-door sports car that Toyota builds with Subaru, and it is no longer called the 86, it is now the GR86. And this is not a drive review of this car, they're not allowing that just yet, but a ride-along. But it's a special ride-along because I got a chance to sit shotgun with Ken Gushi, a pro drifter, and not only did he give me a lap in the car and tell me about how it feels as he drove it around a racetrack called Eagle Canyon Raceway, he also walked around the car with me and showed me a lot of the different details of the car. So it was a ride-along, but a lot of information was shared, great information. And I have to tell you, based on everything I've learned, I'm really excited about the chance to drive this car. This has all the ingredients to be a proper sports car, a much better execution than the first generation, what was then called Scion FRS. So what you're going to see is me talking with Ken, riding along with Ken, and then I'm going to do my best to show you different aspects of the car in the clearest way. And we're not always going to be looking at the same car. This is a GR86. Ken gave me a ride in a GR86 Premium, which is a new second tier trim for these cars. But either way, I hope you find it informative and enjoyable. Looking forward to showing you more soon. All right, so here I am looking at the 2022 Toyota GR86. The GR is new, it's a new name, and it's because Gazoo Racing has officially had some input in this, and to help me explain that is actually a Toyota race car driver, Formula drifter, Ken Gushi.
All right, yep, my name is Ken Gushi. I am a driver for Toyota Gazoo Racing USA, competing in the Formula Drift Pro Championships, piloting a GR Supra currently.
There's a few things about this car that have really interested me. Obviously, the engine, right, going up 0.4 of a liter to a 2.4 liter, you get more horsepower, more torque, but critically, you get that torque at a much lower RPM.
Right, 3,700 RPM to be precise.
And that was compared to 6,600 RPM,
right, with the
in the past,
version,
which, it must be said, that was a really high torque peak.
It really was, but one of the things that I like to tell people is that the previous generation, and even this generation GR86, they're both driver's cars. So the harder you push, the more rewarding it gets when it gets it right.
Yeah.
You know, when you do it right, it's very rewarding. You keep the momentum and pace through the corners. But with the torque curve being brought lower now, it's a little bit more forgiving than the previous generation.
Okay, very good. Now, one thing that they also talked about is that there are deeper bolsters, upper and lower bolsters in the seats. And you've been driving this car on the track all day. How did the seats feel? And do you have any comparison of the old car?
Yeah, you know, when you're driving a car, you spend 100% of your time inside the vehicle. So interior functions have to really be up to par to really withhold spirited driving, right? Now, the previous generation 86 also had bolstered seats, but they really took that to the next level and made these bolsters by your hips deeper. The overall design of the seat is more comfy while retaining the holding capabilities of a bolstered seat, so it allows you to do some spirited driving.
Absolutely.
While retaining the comfort levels.
By the way, that's a nice helmet you got there.
Thanks.
One thing that I certainly love as a proper driver enthusiast, but also an old person, we still get a 6-speed manual transmission.
Right.
Does this 6-speed manual feel just as it did before, or is there anything different about it now that it has a torquier motor to work with?
Well, okay, so one of the things they changed was the actual shifter mechanism, or the shifter rod, and it definitely feels a lot more precise now, going from gear to gear, both in upshifts and downshifts. I felt as if the previous generation was a little bit more mechanical. This one is also mechanical in the sense that it's analog, but it's more precise and sharp.
Yeah. Now, one thing that Toyota has worked a lot with is the platform is a lot stiffer than it was before, and that included added bracing to the front and to the rear. Did you feel a more significant difference in the front end or the rear end of the car compared to the old generation?
To be honest with you, I felt a big difference overall. I can't really pinpoint if it's heavier up front or more in the back, but numbers say that there's a 60% increase in stiffness in the rear end, as opposed to a 50% increase in stiffness in the front end.
Okay, let's talk about it in terms of feel. Does a car have a different turn-in feel? Is there a different imbalance that you feel as a driver, a transition when you go from left to right or the other way around?
So the more rigid the car is, the more direct and precise you feel in exactly what the car is feeling on the road. So instead of, you turn in, the car flexes a little bit, and then you get the feedback. It's almost instantaneous.
Right. There's that delay for the car to take a set.
Right.
In a sense, yeah. So you're saying that delay has been reduced.
Right. Correct.
And that would ultimately speed up the turn-in feel, then, yeah.
It would speed it up. Not only that, but it would give you a more direct feel on the steering, what the tires are doing, how the chassis is handling the corners, and you mentioned braces, but they also added bracing in inconspicuous areas like the hood. The way they brace the skeleton of the hood is not just straight up and down and side to side. They actually added X crosses throughout the skeleton of the hood.
You told me earlier that this car is 5 millimeters lower to the ground.
They went as far as dropping down the license plate from what was originally on the trunk to now putting it on the bottom of the bumper. So small differences like that at the end of the day make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Let's talk just a little bit more about that engine. One thing that I was so happy to hear is that it retained a naturally aspirated engine. You're not dealing with any amount of turbo lag, and you're also not dealing with the heat of the turbo itself and all the plumbing.
Having a naturally aspirated engine, for one, you already mentioned the simplicity, the lack of heat soaking, heat cycling,
absolutely,
and the complicated plumbing, piping, extra coolant lines. You get rid of all
weight
that
over the front end, for one thing.
And for the most part, naturally aspirated engines have been known to be a little bit more responsive. So in that sense, I agree with you in that I was glad that they kept it naturally aspirated. It sounds great, for one.
Yes.
The new exhaust note is probably one of my favorite features about the car.
Yes.
And speaking of engine, actually, even within the engine, like for example the air cleaner, they refined the air cleaner tube to reduce turbulent airflow inside the actual tube, to have a cleaner airflow going directly into the engine. The throttle body is bigger by almost 5 millimeters.
Oh wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, the intake valve is bigger itself, the diameter of the valve, and also the intake valve stem is now hollow to reduce a little bit of the weight that was added to the actual overall diameter. So
not only
like that,
you have the bigger displacement, but you're also doing all those little tricks to pump in as much air as you can.
Correct.
One last thing, this is purely subjective, but the car largely looks the same, but what do you think about the styling differences?
I love it. I mean, for one, I love the fact that as much as it looks good, everything serves a purpose. So these vents right here, actually, it goes through to lower the coefficient of drag, which also helps aerodynamics, and by doing so, it relieves the pressure in the wheel well, so it helps aid in turning.
Right, and that's a common in history. I mean, in older cars, that's common for there to be a high pressure zone under the front wheel, which creates lift on the front axle, which is obviously what you don't want.
Right. So now this fin right here, if you look at it from both ends, it's actually reducing a lot of that pressure zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. Yeah.
So that'll keep the front end lower to the ground, either.
Yeah, very good.
And then also, even key things like this is all functional aerodynamics.
Yeah, that slipped under the radar, but yeah.
These fins right here.
Oh wow, that's an interesting detail. Yeah, all these little bits just to channel air, just like a Formula One car. You want airflow to be going in a certain direction on all parts of the car.
And non-disruptive.
The biggest relief for me is that they kept it simple, and you can talk about that more holistically. Toyota kept it simple. They didn't overdo it.
Right.
You get closer to a pure sports car when you keep it simple like that. This is a lightweight, still 2,800 pounds. Oh, we didn't mention, by the way, the hood and fenders, those are aluminum now, right?
So is the roof now.
And so is the roof. Well, yeah, see that I didn't, that's even better. And so it's still light. You have more power. The engine's in front, but it's low and tucked towards the back of the front. It's rear wheel drive. It sounds like a great car. I'm excited to drive it. And you already got to drive it.
Yeah.
And in fact, you're about to take me on a lap. Ken Gushi,
Yep.
professional drifter, is about to give me a ride in the 2022 Toyota GR86. This is no longer just an 86, it's now a Gazoo Racing 86.
Yeah, it has officially joined the Gazoo Racing family.
I am, I'm not going to be scared, so just do whatever you please. I dare you to try to scare me. I mean, your drift car is a Supra.
Yep.
Would you think this would make a good drift car, potentially?
Absolutely. Actually, before the Supra, I was in the previous generation 86.
Ah, yeah.
He said he's not super quick, so give yourself plenty of gas.
I'll wait 10 seconds, 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds.
So what got you into drifting?
I started off as a car fan following my dad, and he's always been a big rally car fan. So we started off doing rally when I was about 12 or 13, but it was kind of expensive and drifting was a cheaper alternative. So
yes.
I just went that route and stuck with it. It's just been a lot of fun. Joined the Toyota Racing family in 2007 and been with them since. So I saw the start and end of Scion Racing, or Scion.
Yep.
That's where I started off. And now Scion kind of went back to Toyota, so that's where I am currently, present day, driving for Toyota Gazoo Racing in a GR Supra.
Gotcha.
Funny story is, I started practicing drifting in a 1986 Toyota Corolla, which is the last of the rear-wheel drives.
Yeah.
It's in a very popular Japanese anime show called Initial D.
Oh, I know it.
So I've come full circle because that's what I started practicing in, and I competed in a 86, and now here we are today driving a GR86. So if you can say one thing about Ken Gushi as a driver, he really loves the A86 heritage, and I love the fact that they carried that over into developing this vehicle.
100%.
Look at this. A lot of fun. Just very predictable. You can easily step out the rear end, control it, because you have that much confidence in the steering, the updated chassis platform.
Yeah. And you've so far completely failed. I'm not at all scared. I don't know if that was a goal in your life, but keep working at it. I have to say though, I love that you're using just a dab of left foot braking to get the rear end out on entry.
Oh yeah, it's all trail brake. 20 seconds wasn't enough, huh?
Yeah, well, I think that's a sign of a great car, that it responds to light dabs of left foot brake.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big trail braker myself. I'm a big believer in left foot braking.
Yep. We use it all the time in pro drift.
Yeah.
And rally especially.
Yeah, absolutely. But for road racing as well, to get the car pointed just so at the apex, when you're at an initial turn in.
The front axles.
Yeah.
Get the car to turn in, rotate.
So to see that this car is as responsive as it is, because that's what I noticed when you were letting the rear end loose, super slow and progressive slide of the rear, and it was right on entry, and it was the dab of the left foot brake, right?
Right, yeah.
Yep.
It's just so predictable when that happens, and it's so easy to control. And that's really what makes it a driver's car. It gives you full control of the vehicle on track, of course off track as well.
Sure.
But yeah, very rewarding when you get it right.
Thanks, Ken.
No problem.
Appreciate
Thank you.
All right, real quick. I did not get a chance to drive this car, but I am getting a chance to sit in it in the driver's seat and get a real sense of how the cockpit feels to the driver. And it feels really good, I have to say. We have deep bolsters, lower and upper, that really kind of hold you in place. You really feel in the seat, not on the seat. It's really good to get good placement for your hands and for your feet. You feel like you're low in the car. You still have good sight lines. I have a good sense of where the front of the car is. All the ingredients are here. This could be really, really good. This is the kind of car, small, simple, lightweight. That's really exciting. And the fact that you can still get a 6-speed manual transmission. Is it perfect? Is old school hydraulic power steering better? Yes, of course it is. Would it be better if it weighed less than 2,500 pounds? Yes, of course it would. But just taking it in the context of the modern era of cars, you really just have to appreciate and respect that this thing still exists. The way Toyota tuned it and the way Ken Gushi drove it makes me very excited to try the Toyota GR86. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel and like this video. Okay, goodbye.